Everyone, this is Barb Bruno, and I want to welcome you to this call that we're doing today. And basically, I decided to do this call because we're all working under very different circumstances. And many of you, for the first time in your career, are managing your employees remote. And so, what I want to do is basically give you some hints on how you can still keep some momentum going, even though your whole team may be working remote as well as yourself. And I am going to open the lines at the end of this call for any questions that you may have. We're also going to be providing the recording of the call as well as a handout for everybody that is participating. And so if in fact, I'm going to say a lot of things that are not on the slides, and I don't want you worried about catching every note of everything I'm saying. And so I will provide you with handouts and a recording so you have this. So let's get into our program. Managing a virtual team who signed up to work virtual from the get-go is much different than managing a team who has worked in your office, who are used to daily interaction and feedback. They are now working from home, which is going to be much more challenging than anticipated. Working remotely is even more complicated if your employees have young children or school-age children who are now home for the next month or longer. COVID-19 is going to continue to change the way we live, the way we work, the way we shop, and how we interact with others for the foreseeable future. Today, I'm going to address four things with you. What can you give your team for objectives? What should be your expectations as a manager or as an owner? What kind of rules do you need to set up in meetings and feedback? And then just an overview, a quick overview of the impact of COVID-19 on our particular profession. Let's start with team objectives. The objectives for your team are going to vary but depending on the following things: your niche or area of specialization, the segment of our profession that you specialize in. Are you a contingency direct firm? Do you charge engagement fees? Are you retained search? Are you contract or are you temporary staffing? That has a tremendous impact on whether you are still, busy, because I can tell you many staffing firms are busy right now because they've got, they're looking for grocery store stockers. They're looking for people that can in the shipping industry. There's many industries. If you're doing contract, the demand for contract nurses right now and physicians is extreme. It also depends on your geographic location and what current job orders or contracts or assignments did you have before all this started. The tenure of the team, and then what is the 90 to 120 day goals of your company? Because you've got to stand back right now as an owner and view your company big picture as you've never done before, because we're all working in an environment that we've never experienced before. So there's a lot of unknown, there's a lot of uncertainty. Quite frankly, I'm not even watching much of the news because, it changes hourly. And if you've got your team doing nothing but being glued to the news stations, they're going to want to roll up in a ball in the corner and not do anything. And so we've got to be that calming voice that they hear. You've got to be that person that assures them that this is only temporary. If you are in a niche where jobs are on the rise, you're going to see an increase in contracts and temporary assignments. Amazon just announced they're hiring 1,000 more warehouse staff and truck drivers. Grocery stores, on the front page of my paper this morning, they were asking anybody that is willing to stock shelves to just show up at the grocery stores, and they have work for them to do. Companies are obviously hiring additional cleaning staff, and the medical profession is all hands on deck, hiring many medical contractors. One thing that I see that's happening that's interesting, and this is something that just started in the last few days, is many companies are now realizing there are IT contractors that are now available who were not available 2 weeks ago. And obviously, they're now much more willing to let these IT contractors work remote. And that was not the case prior to the outbreak. So if you're placing IT contractors and you've got some IT contractors that have now been, let go for a period of time, and they're the hard to find IT contractors, you might try reaching out to some of your best clients and find out if they would like to utilize these services remote. Now, areas like engineering, it's a little hard to hire an engineer remote, but in some of the design jobs, they're still able to do that. And you've got many companies changing what they're manufacturing right now to basically focus on some of the needs that are currently in the marketplace. So, have these conversations with some of your clients. Now, obviously, you've also got to set up something. You've got to accommodate incoming calls. You've got to interact with your temp workers, your contractors, and your clients, because, most of you will notice that you're going to be working now on a contract or remote basis for an unspecific period of time, and that seems to keep being pushed out. Schools were closed for 2 weeks, and then all of a sudden you heard schools closing until April 6th, and then it was April 13th, and now it's May 1st. Your colleges have basically canceled their spring semesters. I mean, they are not going to have kids on campus until summer, if then. So there's a lot of things that are going on that are leading you to believe that this is going to go on for an unspecified period of time. The great thing that you and I have that's a great benefit to what you and I do, all we need is a phone and a computer, or a smartphone or a tablet. I mean, we're one of the few businesses that we can be in business as long as we're connected online. And so you've got to keep remembering that, and we've got to reach out to our clients and our candidates, even if they're working from home. I know we've got the cell phone numbers for all of our clients, and we've just been doing wellness checks and just answering questions and trying to provide them with information. Candidates who have never been home are at home right now in many instances. And so you've got to realize that we don't know how long this is going to last, but you've got to interact. If you've got anybody out on assignment, you definitely have to be talking to them, because they've got a lot of questions right now. Now, on the other side of the spectrum, obviously, are companies who have put a hold on all hiring, or have closed or made decisions, that they're going 100% virtual. Think of what happened to San Francisco. They had no warning, and 7 million people were quarantined indefinitely. I just got a phone call this morning from a friend of mine, because he sits on the town board of the city that my business is in. And he basically is saying that as of tomorrow morning, everybody's going on lockdown. They don't know it, but it's going to be announced either late today or tomorrow morning. Restrictions are changing day by day. Most companies, although, have not canceled their job orders, they've not canceled their contracts, but they're delaying interview start dates, and a lot of them have changed target dates to hire. But you've got to be the person that keeps everybody informed, because there's so many answers to questions that are not available right now, that you at least have to keep people informed of what's going on in your particular situation. If you're experiencing delays or cancellations, you've got to be the person that remains calm more than anybody. If your team realizes that you as the owner are panicking, or they hear, this anxiety in your voice, it's going to permeate through your whole entire organization. You've got to understand that this is temporary. If you observe what happened in China and Korea, the outbreak does greatly reduce with time. And I know everybody is so focused on Italy right now, but Italy didn't get in front of it, and our country did a lot to get in front of it. I do think you're going to see it get worse. You're going to see a surge before it's contained, but we must position ourselves and get ready, for that surge, and then get ready and be prepared that when this is behind us, there's going to be a tremendous amount of hiring done. Every client I'm talking to, and I've talked to every one of our clients, they are all saying that right now they don't have a clue what's going on, but they're all talking about the work that is not getting done, and how scary that is, that they're going to have such a backlog of things that need to be done. And obviously that's good for you and I and our teams. When you're setting objectives for your teams, please don't set them up for failure. You got to be realistic about what they can or can't accomplish during this time. It's also important to consider their personal situation. If they have small children at home, or school-age children are all at home right now, and sometimes teenagers or middle school kids can be a bigger problem, they're not going to be able to put in as much effort as someone who doesn't have children. There is going to be distractions, and COVID-19 has taken over the media. And that's why I try to encourage your team not to sit there and watch the news 24/7. If you're in a niche where your clients are continuing to hire, you've got to consider each employee and their specific situation when you're setting your KPIs. Employees with children will have more distractions and obligations. You've got to talk to each employee to determine how many hours of work are realistic, and then set attainable minimum standards of performance, because you want to set your team up for success. If your clients are putting everything on hold right now, there's other things that your team can do. Even if your clients are not hiring right now, they can master your ATS. I would say that the average recruiter uses maybe 5% or 10% of what your ATS is capable of doing. They should learn the advanced functions of your ATS. Most of your ATS companies have web-based training that they can log into. They can catch up on data that they've not entered into the ATS. They can update client profiles. They can prep, from the prep information from prior debriefs. There's all kinds of things that they can do in your ATS so that when we're on the other side of this, they're better at their jobs. Now is the time to fine tune your skill sets, to do things that you normally don't have time to do. For the longest time, we have felt like hamsters on wheels, and you barely can breathe because there's so much business. And guess what? That's kind of flipped over right now. So think of all the things that you have not been able to accomplish that can be done during this time. Number two is you want to position yourself as a workplace expert, and you want to do that with both your candidates and your clients. I sent you 20 FAQs that I got in a webinar that I attended 2 nights ago. Now, obviously, things keep changing, and you've got to look at what laws are being passed locally, on a state level, on a federal level, and you've got to keep informed. Now, I can tell you, you've got 2 national associations that are doing a great job of keeping you up to date on what's happening out there, because there's so much misinformation. You've got NAPS, and you can access their website at naps360.org. And then you've got a site that TechServe Alliance has set up strictly for coronavirus, and it's Tech, TECH, Serve, SERVE, Alliance, ALLIANCE.org/services/coronavirus. And so you've got naps360.org and techservealliance.org/services/coronavirus. And those 2 sites are really trying to keep you updated. And even the FAQs I sent you, those were current as of 48 hours ago, but things keep changing rapidly. And these 2 associations are doing a great job of trying to keep people in our profession informed on what's going on out there. Number 3, this is the time to pipeline candidates. Candidates working from home can now talk openly, and they're going to continue to change jobs once this is behind us. And many candidates, just like all of us, you're now sort of reevaluating your priorities because we're forced to. All of a sudden, you're stuck at home, you're working virtual, you're social, that there's so many social rules on us right now that everybody is reflecting on their lives and on their families and on priorities. And so, candidates will take time to do this. Once this is behind us, there's going to continue to be a lack of talent. So it's not that all of a sudden, because of the coronavirus, there's going to be an abundance of top talent in the marketplace. Once this is behind us, there's going to be a tremendous need for companies to get back up and functional. And so you're going to go right back into a candidate-driven marketplace. So this is a great time to pipeline candidates. And who should you pipeline? You've got to know your best business. Go back and take time to research what are the jobs your company's been filling. Not what have you been writing, but what job orders and contracts and temp assignments are you filling? What are the job titles? And then give those titles to your recruiting team and say, let's pipeline these 6 titles as much as we can, because here's where we have most of our demand. And this is a great time to touch candidates in your database that are good and update their information and see what they want to do next. Because now we're not pitching jobs, and they hate when we pitch jobs to them anyway. And now you can call and just say, I think this is a great time. We're all working from home to find out what you see yourself doing next. I want to get everything updated, as far as your information. So when the job market really starts to roll, which it will do in not that distant of a future, that I know what's most important to you. Those are great conversations to have right now. Also, this is a great time to research and learn to use some free sourcing tools. I know that most of you constantly hear your team saying, you've got to buy us more tools. We need more paid tools. Well, guess what? Job boards and, all those things, that's what your clients are using. Clients are spending $2.5 billion with a B dollars on job board ads, like Indeed and all the other job boards, and getting SEO on their employment pages of their websites. And when they come to us, they don't want us giving them the same candidates they're getting on their own. So now is a great time to identify new tools, research the best clients to target, set up Google alerts on all your clients and prospects. Every one of your salespeople and every one of your recruiters should have a Google alert set up on all the clients you do business with, and all the prospective clients you're going to do business with. They should also have Google alerts set up on your hiring authorities. And what a Google alert is, anytime a company's name or a person's name is online for anything, you get an alert in your email. So then, of course, you've got to set up rules in Outlook or whatever email provider you use, so those alerts go into a folder. And then when you call somebody, you always open the folder and see what's been said about them recently online. And they're not going to understand how you know so many things. And there are so many free sourcing tools and Chrome extensions like Crystal Knows that will give you information that make you sound like an expert. I mean, they should go to socialtalent.com, which is a source hub. You know what that does? It actually builds Boolean strings where somebody doesn't even have to know how to write a Boolean string. This is something recruiters could do, not just sourcers. So get them on socialtalent.com. Get them on zapinfo.io. That's a Chrome extension, and it can extract context from nearly any page out there. There are so many search engine tips. There's so many things that they could learn right now. Contact information, Lucia, the Chrome extension, or Crystal Knows, or even just to find phone numbers. They should start using things like True People Search or the usphonebook.com. There's so much they can do during this time and just get better. Now is the time to find new resources that aren't going to cost you any money, because as owners and managers, you're taking a hit right now. And so have them ask the candidates, where do you go when you're looking for a job? They can identify all kinds of new resources that, guess what, are free, because you're going to have to watch your expenses for a while. And you're not going to be able to come back and provide them with all brand new, paid resources. And so you definitely want them to help you find some free resources. Our best resources, my company, the best resources we use for recruiting and client development have come from our candidates and our clients. We ask them where they go, what they use, and it's never a paid service. And so now is the time to do this type of thing and get good at these resources, because again, they've got more time on their hands now, other than all the distractions at home than they did when they were in your office. Now, what kind of expectations should there be of yours? Okay. Because again, people look to you as their mentor. They need sometimes to be a little motivated, and you can't motivate someone. They've got to motivate for their own reasons. They've got to motivate themselves. But how do you do that when they're at home? How do you inspire them? How do you still teach them things? Okay. I believe that the best thing you could all do right now as managers or owners is create and share expectations with your team that outline what they can expect from you and what you expect from them. When you list what you expect from them, you want to follow each request with the benefit to them for achieving the expectation. So when you're asking them to do something, you need to show them the benefit. For example, I want to give you an example. You might say, I will be available between 8:30 and 9, 11 and 1, and after 4 to answer questions. Because during the business hours, you're trying to still reach out to clients, you're talking to candidates, you're doing other things that you need to do as an owner or manager. And so tell them that first thing in the morning, midday, and after 4, you're there to answer questions, because you don't want them spending, the daytime hours reaching out to you with tons of questions, because you've also got to keep your business afloat, and you've also got to do things that owners and managers need to do right now. And you can expect that any business that's written by anybody on your team will be sent to them within 1 hour. Now, I put that, your handout does have a mistake. It says 4 hours. It's going to be within 1 hour. Anything that's written, you've got to get it to your entire team, and you've got to get it to them fast. Now, what you expect from them, notice, I say, I want you to participate on daily conference calls, but then I put down the benefit to them to keep you informed. I want to keep you informed. I want you to keep daily stats, because when I see your daily stats, that helps me determine where I can help you. But it also shows you how much people are working. Like, what are they doing? And the stats they might be keeping now might be very different than the stats they were keeping when your clients were actively hiring. You might want to look at how many profiles were updated in the database, how many past clients, what kind of research are they doing on who? You've got to come up with what do you want them to do, and how are you going to track it, and then show them the benefit to them for you asking them to do certain things. Now let's talk about rules and meetings and feedback. This is an entirely new working arrangement for most of your employees. And if one of your employees is having an issue or a concern, chances are other people are having issues as well. So what you need to do is, if somebody does call you with a question, start a list of FAQs that you're sharing with everybody. These are some of the questions you guys are asking. Here's the answers. Because, if one person has an issue, other ones are having the same issue. You've got to communicate more with remote employees because there will be endless distractions. And unless you have a set call or meeting schedule, your office will lose any chance of maintaining momentum that will carry over when they finally return to your office. And so, I have 12 people that work for me virtual on a continual basis. And obviously the market is impacting them, but they're used to working virtual. This is much different for people that are not used to working virtual. If available, FaceTime, video conferencing, always open lines for Q&A. Because again, when you ask your employees what questions they have, what they're going to reveal to you are their concerns. And so, you've got to always open every call you've got. Do any of you have any questions? Can I help any of you in any way? And sometimes when you see a person, it's just a little more personal. You feel like you're together rather than if there is no setup. And I'm going to give you several resources that you can use in a few minutes. You want to celebrate whenever possible. When someone has a win or comes up with a new pitch or a solution, recognition is a great motivator for your team. And if you've got somebody on your team that gets creative and really starts succeeding and doing some things, share it with everybody and give that person credit. Also, continue to provide training so they can fine-tune their recruiting and marketing skills. For those of you that are my tutor clients, I will continue doing the weekly training webinars that I do every Wednesday. Make sure your people sign up. I will continue doing the bi-weekly coaching calls on Monday. Make sure that everybody is signed up for those because people have questions right now, which I think is extremely important that we answer them. And again, I'm going to give a lot of resources and a lot of different things also to your team. So I want you to make sure that your team joins us on that 12 o'clock call because they need to understand that now is not the time to roll up in a ball and be scared and not do anything. And it's also not a time to sit on the couch. And I'll be honest with all of you, I'm going to share something with you that I couldn't believe that happened. When my husband got extremely ill, and this was a few years ago, I decided to work from home. And I'm a very disciplined, organized person. And I thought, how hard can this be? So I set up an office in my home and I was going to take care of Tony as I was working. And I'll never forget, I think it was the second or third morning, I woke up and I was making myself a cup of tea. And I looked at I had bananas hanging on this thing. And I go, God, are those bananas ripe? And before I knew it, I was making banana bread. Okay. I didn't make it to my desk till probably 9:15 because I decided to bake banana bread. And then I would take a break for lunch. I'd walk by a closet and go, wow, I haven't cleaned that in a while. And then I was doing laundry. And then I discovered Ellen. I'd never seen the show. And so I started for the next 2 or 3 days at 2 o'clock, I would walk away from my office and I'd turn on the TV and I'd watch Ellen for an hour in the middle of prime time in the afternoon. And this is not when we're facing what we're doing now. This was during, time. I would never consider that. And after the first week of working home, I tried everything. I tried getting up, showering, dressing the way I dressed for work, telling people they couldn't interrupt me, having a plan, and I still was very distracted. So what I'm saying to all of you is even someone that has my personality that is pretty goal-oriented and pretty disciplined and pretty organized, I still found it challenging. In fact, what I ended up doing after a week and a half is I hired a nurse and went back to work because I told my husband it's going to cost us more money then I'm going to pay a registered nurse to be with you. Like I have got to get back to my office, and none of us have that option right now. We have got to learn to work virtual, and so there's going to be some learning curves. So make sure you're there. They've got to know you have their back. Now let's talk about the virus for a second. You've got to be calm and you've got to be the voice of reason. It's not your job to agree or disagree with their fears or concern. You need to put yourself in their shoes, see this world through their eyes and be understanding. I've got those 20 FAQs I'm attaching, but you need to stay informed so you're prepared for questions your team's going to ask. In many instances, it's wise to say, I can't predict the future, but this is going to pass. This is not a forever situation. You're the leader and your people are going to take their direction from you. If you're not disciplined enough to constantly stay in touch with them, people do what you inspect, not what you expect. If you're not calling and asking about things, chances are the fear can take over and they could just shut down. How you say things is almost as important as what you say. And it's important to do whatever you can to keep things going. because your company is in business to make a profit. And COVID-19 is impacting all of your investments and your profits. Anything you can do or say that makes your team laugh is a great idea and relieves stress. If your team is not attending my next webinar on how to successfully work remotely, make sure you share the 20 FAQs with them. Encourage them to be cautious. Follow rules outlined by local, state, and federal agencies, but just know that we're all going to work together. Now is a great time to expand your network. We're going to get through this if we all stay in touch and work together for the common good. Bottom line, you've got to show your team that they can trust you. You've got to show your team that you care. And lastly, you've got to back up your words with action. If you say you're going to do something, you have to do it. If you say you're going to be in touch at certain times of the day, you have to be in touch. And so just make sure that whatever you say to them, that you back it up with your actions. All right, now I want to open the lines for your questions. I appreciate so many of you being on the line. You can ask me questions one of two ways. You can go to the control panel on your right, and if you put in a phone number, an access code, and a PIN number, you can go to the attendee list, and you see that little hand that looks like a hand being raised. If you click on that, I can unmute your line, and you and I can talk. If you did not put an access code, PIN number, or phone number in, you can go down below where it says questions, and if you click on that questions, it'll open a dialog box, and you can type in your question. If you don't want me to use your first name, then just put anonymous or confidential, and I won't. Wendy, I see you've got a question. I unmuted your line. What's your question, Wendy? Wendy, are you there? I see your hand is up. Okay, you're typing in a question instead. Let me go down below. Let's see. Don't have a question. Beside grocery nurses, what other industries are thriving right now? The industries that are thriving right now, Matt, are industries that are retooling. You've got a lot of manufacturing plants that were doing other things, and now they're doing the parts for ventilators. Like there's a factory in Chicago that I knew did something else, and now 2 or 3 of the parts that they make in their company are used on ventilators, and so now they're hiring many more people because all they're doing is manufacturing those 3 parts. And so what I'm saying to you is it's you've got to look at what people can do. Like, when I opened the paper this morning and they said they need 500 people. I don't live in Chicago. I live in Indiana, and they're looking for 500 people to stock shelves at grocery stores, and so, there's certain industries that have been clobbered. There's other industries that are still hiring temps and contractors, so again, the nurses and doctors, they can't get enough of them. Hospitals are screaming for them. Anything to do with the medical profession. On the other hand, hospitality has been clobbered, but many people that worked in hospitalities, you still have call centers that are trying to stay afloat. What they've done is they've cut some of their staff, or some of their staff won't go. So they're doing that social distancing. But you have to think about, other places that might be able to utilize, and go online, just follow what's being said online and follow what's being done in your particular niche, in your particular industry, because if one person is making a transition, that means other people with similar experience could make the same transition. Okay, many of our clients are laying off up to 80% of their staff. We recruit in hard-hit hospitality. Oh, yeah, that's a hard one. How do you feel about pivoting to another industry? Anytime you can help them pivot. And right now, if people need to work, and again, all of your workers, all of your temporary workers and contractors and your employees are going to be helped, because except those that are making, great money, and a lot of recruiters make great money, but they're going to be issuing, I think, 1 or 2 checks within the next 30 days to try to help people breathe a little bit. But, you don't want to lose everybody. You want to keep in touch with them. And again, anytime you can pivot, anytime you hear about anybody that's hiring, whether it's through you or you just hear that there's job leads, like Amazon is beefing up all over the country, people that are willing to work in the warehouse. And it's interesting because I know a woman who basically she's a professional woman. And she called me yesterday to let me know that the Amazon warehouse that is not far from where my office is, that they're looking for people that will work 3 in the morning until, I think it's 3 to 9 in the morning. So it's 6 hours, and they get a little bit of a break. And all they're doing is unloading and loading. You know, she's a tiny little thing. I said, you're unloading and loading. And she said, they're paying $15 an hour and they're paying overtime if people stay past, you know, the time that they're asking you to work. And she said, they need hundreds of people right now. And I went, okay, so when we're getting any calls from people that might be interested in doing something like that, that's not normally an area that we place in, but have we put it out there for people? Of course we have, you know, because people are desperate. I'm sure the grocery stores had lines of people show up this morning because basically they said, show up and we'll hire you, just show up. You know, so sometimes it's not going to be through your firm, you know, but when you do good for people, when you give them leads and you don't make money on certain things or you keep them informed, when this turns around, they're going to remember you. You know, your candidates and your clients are scared. You know, if you've got temporaries out there, you've got contractors out there, you know, you've got to let them know you have their back. And if they don't want to go to work, you know, then you've got to replace them, you know, and all the great people. You don't want them to think you forgot them. And I think us going out and reaching out to people, especially candidates, and saying, what do you see as your next career move? That's showing them that we know that this is going to turn around. I think everybody needs a voice of reasoning right now because the TV, and I mean, no matter how you get your news, whether it's online or, you know, everything that's being, you know, broadcast right now. You know, I looked at my inbox this morning. And it was interesting because I had probably 200 email since last night in my inbox when I got here this morning. And I would say 90% of it either had coronavirus, COVID-19, or something in the subject line. And I'm like, enough, you know, it's we've got to take a deep breath here and stand back and figure out what we can do. You know, I personally have decided that since I've got a little bit of extra time right now, I'm not traveling. All my conferences were canceled. I was supposed to be gone all next week. I'm going to finish writing the 2 courses that I'm doing for LinkedIn. I'm supposed to film them at the beginning of June. Who knows if that's going to happen? But there's things you can do as an owner. What have you wanted to do for your business and haven't had time? Is this when you have to really revise your revenue generating strategies? You know, I always tell owners and managers have 6 revenue generating strategies with dated action items under them. If you haven't done that, how are you going to generate revenue? What are the 6 ways you're going to generate revenue when we're on the other side of this? What are you going to do? Okay. And so now is a good time to stand back as if you were a consultant. You're the leader, you're the owner, you're the manager. Now we've got to stand back and your people are going to look to you for guidance. They're going to look to you for guidance. They need your guidance. Let's see, what other areas can we cut costs? If temps are laid off, can we discontinue health insurance coverage? It depends. You've got legally, you've got to watch what's going on because all kinds of laws are being, you know, passed right now. I don't know if anything's hit insurance yet, but, you know, I think a lot of other costs, any, you know, simple things like you're going to have some costs that are gone just because you're not in your office. But if you have loans, you can call them and ask if they could give you a month or 2 and just tack it onto the back of your loans. You know, anything else where you're spending money. Obviously, your offices don't need to be cleaned if you're not there. You know, so you're not going to pay for cleaning services. You know, your phone bills are going to go down. A lot of bills are going to go down. These are big things, but, you know, you've got to look at every, you know, as an owner, you've got to look at every expense you have and try to cut them down. I don't have the answer for the health insurance coverage yet because they're talking about, you know, passing laws that are going to mandate certain things. So we've got to watch. We've got to watch what's happening. Can you give an example of a wellness check with a client? When I call, they're saying, I'm laying people off, not now. When I call my clients, I just go, hi, I can only imagine what you're going through. Is, you know, are there any questions I can answer? I want to send you some information on some FAQs I think might help you, you know, and I just want to make sure how you are. I don't ask anything about hiring or anything about anything. And a couple of times I said, by the way, can you do this for me? Can you do that for me? And we actually had a couple of things. In fact, we actually made a placement yesterday, a direct hire, which I didn't expect to happen during a wellness check. So we're not making money on them right now. And so many clients feel that we only talk to them when we're making money on them. And so we've got to call and say, I cannot even imagine what you're going through. Just call to see how you are. You know, we all know this is going to be behind us, you know, and are there any questions I can answer? I also want to send you some information. We just got, you know, and if you go on those 2 websites for the 2 associations I mentioned, they've also got some great information you could be sharing with your clients because there's a lot of misinformation out there, you know, so I think that you have to give them stuff that's real. And I think just having your back, saying, I can't imagine what you're going through, just wanted to kind of do a wellness check on you, because I can't even imagine the pressure that you're under. Let's see here. What do you recommend when clients say they can no longer pay our fee even though we made a placement? I don't know that we can do anything about that right now. And when they're saying they can't pay a fee, what they're saying is they can't pay it right now. People are just scared. And so will you have to give them some extra time to pay invoices? I think we're all going to see that. We're all going to see that. And so when they say they can no longer pay the fee and say, I totally understand that right now, none of us know where this is going to land. When this is behind us, we can call and discuss a due date for that fee. Because again, if people are scared, they have no money coming in and they've been clobbered, but he has to pay the fee. Unless he lets the candidate go and it's not past the guarantee period. So when they pretend like you didn't hear no longer and say, I totally understand there's going to be a delay. Everything is delayed right now, and I'll contact you when we're on the other side of this. You've got to show some understanding, and I know that's painful for all of us, but you can't force people to do things right now, especially when they're scared to death and don't know when they're going to have income coming in again. So I would just say, we'll be in touch when we're on the other side of this and talk about, a revised due date. But they can't refuse to pay the fee when they made a placement. And you don't want to get into any legality with them right now. And right now you want to say, okay, well, we understand there's going to be a delay, as if you didn't hear them say we're not going to pay it. But, they've got to be reasonable too. You've got to stay in business as well. Let's see. Okay, I'm getting a bunch of things saying that this was great information. And again, if anything else comes up or I see that things change, I may do another webinar down the road that's for everybody, that'll be free. It just depends on what I see going on. I think the biggest thing you've got to do right now is you've got to take a deep breath. You've got to figure out what you're going to do. What do you want your company to achieve in the next 90 or 120 days? Get expectations out to your team, and then stay calm, and let's take this a day at a time. Take it a day at a time. Let me make sure there's no other hands being raised. I see none. I appreciate so many of you being on the line, and I'm here to help you. This is a time when the only thing I can give you right now is advice, and so that's why I decided to do this, because this is kind of my gift to all of you. And I hope that you take some of the ideas. And if you don't have your team signed up for the call at noon, get them signed up, because I'm also telling them that you're in business to make money and they've got to do things right now to keep the momentum going. So I'm going to try to help you by also training your team. So make sure your team is on that noon call. So good luck, everybody. Please stay safe. And if I see anything really changed, just watch notifications, because I'm going to keep training and I'm going to keep in touch. So I'm here to have your back. So stay safe, everybody. And I'll see you on the other side of this. Bye, everybody.